Man, I'm fucking tired of reacting to videos and missing out on the sun. Empty board? Not empty. This is the food hierarchy chart. This is the rating I give to the food hierarchy chart. This is a food guide ensuring you're going to live till 120. Now people may ask, what's the point of living to 120? If by the time I'm 70 I have no legs, I can't remember my grandson's name, this isn't about adding years to your life. It is about adding life to your years. This isn't about adding life to your years, this is about restoring the years that have been taken from us. I'm going to start up here, organs, muscles, and blood. Living till 120 is only guaranteed by one thing, eating enough muscle meat, organs, and blood. Without these things, you will not live, likely past to the age of 80. Almost all of our organs in our bodies are meant to digest fats. We use fats as ketones for energy, making us very metabolically efficient. Now, it doesn't matter where these organs come from. They could come from fish, they could come from cows, that's a cow, more like a sheep. They could come from chickens. What the fuck is that? It doesn't matter. You need to be eating enough poultry, fish, red meat, white meat, doesn't matter. I am not racist. What may be of more importance to you is how do you organize how much organs, blood, and muscle you're going to eat? Well, this depends on your needs, actually. When you're first unhealthy and you start a primal diet, I would urge most people to eat more organs. This is because your internal tissues, well, your entire body, but your more important tissues like your liver, your brain, your spleen, are unhealthy. You essentially need to replace your unhealthy organs with healthy organs. This entire chart is under the premise that everything that you source is healthy, that it's come into contact with minimal pollution, that the animals are eating their natural diets, and that they're not pumped full of antibiotics and toxins. Putting our attention back here, the ratios depends on your needs in specific. I find once you are already a healthy male with healthy tissues and it's already done growing, you don't need that many more organs. You need muscle meat. What are you mostly made out of? Muscles. Blood is nature's water. If you can find blood, always replace it for water. Water, if not rainwater or if not full of minerals like natural spring water, will dehydrate you because it doesn't have any minerals, electrolytes, to actually hydrate you. Water for the most part is a solvent, meaning it breaks down and assimilates things. This isn't entirely a bad thing, but when you're eating very nutrient-dense foods, you want to be careful of how much water you're consuming. And it's likely you won't need much water if you're eating all of these foods raw anyway. These foods, for the most part, should comprise 80 to 90% of your diet. The more that your diet consists of these foods, the longer that you will live. Now that I'm thinking about it, the more the better. Why? These are the most nutrient-dense, easily assimilated, perfectly digested foods that your body can metabolize. The more food that you have to metabolize, the more stress on your organs. And humans don't die of old age. Humans die because one of their organs has taken on more stress in relation to the rest. The reason I've also organized this pyramid like this is because we want to be staying in a ketogenic state. Ketones, I find, are the preferred source of human energy. Whether we eat blood, organs, or muscles, which again are the most nutrient-dense foods, we will stay in a ketogenic state. There are still carbohydrates in these foods, especially if the animal is fresh, but that doesn't kick us out of a ketogenic state. Next, we have dairy. Dairy in the past I've said is not human food. And I still don't think it is, but I think it's a wonderful supplement food, and it tastes bomb as fuck. Now, this guide is how to live as long as possible, so you would focus most of your efforts here, but if you are growing or if you are pregnant, dairy and its other components are incredibly nourishing and beneficial for developing children. Out of all the dairy products, I would rate kefir as the G. He takes the top spot. Butter, right behind it. Milk, super great as well, but isn't as much of a concentrated force as kefir, isn't as much as a concentrated force of nutrients like butter. But milk is very hydrating. If you do not have blood, you have shit water, I would defer to milk. Raw milk, obviously. Pasteurized milk does not hydrate you, it dehydrates you. The more dairy I find that you consume will decrease the rating of your diet based on longevity. The reason I say this is because while dairy is very great for growing things, also means that it's very good at aging things. Once you are already done growing, I don't find much more of a need for you to be consuming dairy products. Butter and kefir is more of an exception. So the more dairy, the less longevity. Starches, fruits, and honey. This is the last bit of the tier, the one that you should focus on the least and that a lot of people can live their lives without. If anything, consuming in excess in this final tier will reduce the longevity of your life much more significantly.
Hello?
These are what I would call starvation food. Cooked starches if you do not have high meat to ferment bacteria. Fiber and starches feed the gut if your gut is in dysbiosis. Fruit and honey in natural settings, in a lot of sunlight, hardly have any drawbacks, and if anything, the pros for this extra energy that you're receiving in such a quick burst is beneficial to the body. Not in excess though. But fruits and honey from the grocery market full of glyphosate, GMO'd, full of pesticides are not the same. There are likely not very many of you who have access to natural fruits and honey. So for the most part, I say you don't even need this. Starches, I find, make the transition from a high carb diet into a largely ketogenic animal raw-based diet easier. Since your insulin drops heavily and your kidneys stop holding water, which also holds a lot of electrolytes, starches allow you to keep on to some of these electrolytes before you make this transition to a ketogenic raw carnivore. This is one of the only few uses I've noticed with using cooked starches. Now back to the ratings. Anything that you cook is -1. So if you have grass-fed, no antibiotic, hormone-free beef liver and chuck steak, wonderful cuts of meat, and you decide to cook them, I would take 1 point off. You suck. This depends how much you cook it. If it's well done, -3. You suck heavily. Anything that you decide to ferment, like the same beef liver, like the same chuck steak, you can add +1. +1 to any cut of meat, to any item, except the cooked starches and honey, because you can't ferment those things. Add +1. Fermented milk, +1. It's just kefir. Fermented butter, even, +1. The reason I say this is because bacteria is essential to your health. You are almost entirely made up out of bacteria. Any disinfectant, any antibiotics that you use are not just killing your cells, you are killing yourself. And the main premise towards longevity is eating as little as possible while feeling as nourished as possible. And the best way to do this is to eat fermented products. At the moment, I am eating a lot of fermented meat. I weigh around 85 kilos. I only eat, let's use calories as an example, 1,300 to 1,400 calories a day, and I comfortably keep this frame without having to train, without having to overeat. This is the key to longevity, is to have bacteria pre-digest everything for you, so the metabolic load on your organs is next to none. Now, there are a lot of longevity experts and biohackers out there, but if they're not talking about fermented meat and the importance of bacteria, please do not take them seriously. Now, I'm going to address these two symbols I put at the top and at the bottom. Sunlight is more important than food. Biologically speaking, maybe food is more nutritious than the sun, but 50% of people on this earth are deficient in vitamin D. Only 1% of the population suffers from an overdose of vitamin D and too much sunlight. That might be me. So the reason I say sunlight is more important than food is because we always focus on food, but we hardly regard sunlight and the effect that it has on our cells. It is essentially our way of photosynthesizing. It is free food, it is free electrons, and it is free energy. Like I said, you want to be eating as little as possible while being as nourished as possible. If you can get the purest form of energy, which is light, right through the fucking sky and not have to eat a goddamn thing, right now it's 3 p.m., been in the sun all day, I'm not hungry, then it would be paramount for you to focus to even get an overdose of sunlight and vitamin D. Down here is death. You do not want to be here, nobody wants to die. This would be foods like seeds, their oils, grains, and vegetables. Genetically modified vegetables. These are death foods. You do not want to be anywhere near them. If your diet consisted of these things, you would die at half your natural age, you would deteriorate, lose your memory, lose your legs, likely have some sort of diabetes, chop some fucking arm off. I'm not going to bore anyone with the studies because I don't give a shit. What I care about is how you feel when you eat these foods. Drink a pint of blood with some raw muscle meat, a little bit of beef liver, you will feel like a king. Have pizza with oatmeal, you're not going to feel like a king. Now finally, how would I want you to organize all this? Well, like I said, 80 to 90% of your foods should come from this food group. Play around with the last 10 to 20%. With dairy, fermented dairy, some butter, fruits, honey, but I never feel as good eating these things as I do eating this. Especially when it's fermented, not when it's cooked. The further that you can push this number to 100%, the closer you will be to longevity. The reason I say this is because eating food in of itself is an aging process. The issue is, when you have dairy, when you have fruits and honey and starches, there are plant compounds and growth hormones which your body has to additionally metabolize. If you can eventually get this to 100% of your diet, you're not going to live till 120. You're going to live till 140. The less detox you have to do, the longer you will live. Poison is not in the dose, poison is in the poison. The more that you can avoid poisons, the more years of your life you will be rewarded with.